Welcome to Nobody Told Me. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
And joining us on this episode is psychotherapist Dr. Paul Hokemeyer, who has treated some of the world's most successful people and is known as the world's foremost expert on celebrity identities.
He's the author of the book, Fragile Power: Why Having Everything is Never Enough. Lessons from Treating the Wealthy and Famous. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Tell us more about your background and how you came to treat patients who have power and celebrity and wealth.
Well, it's been a rather circuitous journey, I have to say. And, I started my career as a lawyer. I was a corporate bankruptcy lawyer. And, boy, I figured out in a heartbeat that really wasn't the way I wanted to spend the rest of my life. And then I went into the realm of philanthropy, and I started working for environmental organizations, the Sierra Club up in San Francisco, and then Greenpeace International in Amsterdam. And so in that process, I noticed how people of wealth and power were being viewed and talked about in a fairly objectifying, or actually a very objectifying, manipulative way. And I thought it kind of concerning because, we're dealing with human beings, and their wealth and their celebrity began to eclipse their humanness, and so they were being viewed as objects. I was living in Amsterdam, and September 11 happened, and kind of as a white privileged male growing up in America, the security of my world had always been guaranteed until on that day it wasn't. And I just wanted to come back to America, and so I moved back to America. I moved back to Los Angeles, and I began working with one of America's wealthiest families, doing concierge lawyering for them, selling their house in Aspen, negotiating a lease on their jet, getting their 22-year-old daughter out of a crack house in Phoenix, Arizona. And it was this last bit that I was riveted by, because I was always taught that money and success and power were the keys to the kingdom. And if you had money and if you had wealth, money could buy yourself out of any problem. And I found that because in this realm of mental health, in this realm of addiction, that this family had been throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at this problem, and they were not getting any solutions. They weren't getting any answers. So off I went back to school, and I got a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I started working with the most marginalized of the marginalized, HIV-positive transgendered sex workers at a free clinic in Hollywood. And I observed that while the externals of these two people's lives, with my patients in East LA and with the family I was working with in West LA, were very different. They lived on two very opposite ends of the economic bell curve, that internally they were very much the same. They suffered from insecure attachment, hyperactive central nervous systems. There was a trauma experience in the past that profoundly impacted how they perceive the world. And that the field of behavioral health, mental health, the field that I was entering into, had done an extraordinary job, a good job of working with people who live in the world in positions of powerlessness, but a horrible job in working with people who exist in the world in positions of power. And so off I went again, back to school, and I did my PhD on power identity constructs. So how people of wealth and celebrity manifest their identities on three significant levels of their being: their intrapersonal, their interpersonal, and their social cultural. And then my PhD really informed the clinical work that I have been doing, the research and the writing that I have been doing for the past 15 years. So it's grown organically, but it's very much rooted in minority populations who exist in the world in positions of powerlessness. My work is really an extension of cultural competency. So when we think about cultural competency, traditionally we think about minorities who live in the world in positions of powerlessness. And my work extends cultural competency in the realm of psychology to people who live in the world in positions of power.
What do Americans think that celebrities and famous people have that they don't, besides money? And what do you think the universal misconceptions are related to that?
Security. I think that people think that if you have enough money, then you'll be safe and secure in the world. And certainly money enables you to live in the safest neighborhoods, drive the safest cars, eat the safest foods. So externally, it provides you with a high level of security. But internally, in a place that we call the self, celebrities live in a very insecure place. It's a very, very difficult emotional place for them to be. They feel very vulnerable. They feel very insecure. They don't know whether people like them for who they are as their authentic selves. They're terrified, really, of being their authentic selves. They don't know who they are authentically. So I think it's that it's this sense of you have all the answers, that you're on the top of the hill, nobody can ever get to you. You live in a castle, and you're protected. Physically, that may be the case, but emotionally and spiritually, it's very much not the case.
So you're saying it's lonely at the top.
It's very lonely. It's lonely. In addition to being lonely, it's scary. One of the things about when you live a life in the middle, you always kind of live on hope, right? Because there's always the sense that tomorrow will be better. If I only work harder, if I get the right lottery ticket, if I get the right job, I can improve the situation in my life. When you're on the top of the hill, you basically live in an ethos of fear, because really the only way to go is down. And there are a lot of people kind of nipping at you and kind of wanting you to go down. So the pressures are extraordinary. And instead of being able to cling to hope, which certainly hope gets me out of bed every morning, right? I get out of bed thinking, today's going to be a better day than it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. When you're on the top of the hill, you're living in fear, this inevitable fall that you think is going to come your way.
So do you think it's harder in a lot of ways to be a famous person than it is to be a regular person, considering that you've helped both?
Knowing what I know, I really don't envy people who live with a celebrity identity. I do think it's harder. I think it's profoundly lonely. I think it's terrifyingly, it's scary. It's unstable. You feel that it's unsustainable. I'm kind of like the Buddha. I think the middle way is a much more comfortable place to be. You have a sense of security. You have a sense of place. You have more of a sense of permanency in the world. So, yeah, I do.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a minute after we share some information about one of our sponsors, Ritual, the obsessively researched vitamin for women.
We all want to do the right thing to keep our bodies healthy, but even if we try hard to eat kale salads and drink green smoothies, we're still most likely not getting all of the essential nutrients we need on a daily basis.
Enter Ritual Essential Vitamins. 2 easy-to-take capsules provide 9 nutrients most of us don't get enough of from food, all in their clean, absorbable forms. No shady additives or ingredients that can do more harm to your body than good.
I've always been prone to nausea when I take my vitamins, but when I take Ritual Essential for Women every morning, I love the fact that its anti-nausea capsule design is gentle on an empty stomach. I hope you'll check out the Ritual.com website and see for yourself, like I did, just how Ritual Essential vitamins are different from other vitamins.
I've been taking Ritual Essential for Women 50 plus, and I look forward to it every day. Ritual Essential Vitamins smell minty, and I love the way they leave your mouth feeling fresh, not with the fishy aftertaste other vitamins have.
That's one of my favorite parts about Ritual as well. But we have to remember, better health doesn't happen overnight. Right now, Ritual is offering our Nobody Told Me listeners 10% off during your first 3 months.
Fill in the gaps in your diet with Essential for Women, a small step that helps support a healthy foundation for your body. Visit ritual.com/nobodytoldme to start your ritual today.
That's 10% off during your first 3 months at ritual.com/nobodytoldme.
How are the problems of those who've actively sought fame and wealth different from those who were born into it?
Very different. So in terms of, there is something called locus of control, which is a psychological term. So people who are born into wealth have what's called an external locus of control. So they don't feel as confident in their abilities. They don't quite know who they would be if they didn't have their bank account or their last name or drive the car that they drive. People who have worked to attain levels of celebrity and enormous success have what's called an internal locus of control. If they would lose, what they've gained, they feel pretty confident in their ability to work and get it back again. they're much more driven. They're much more focused. So those are two very different personality presentations that impact how people see themselves and how the world sees them.
I think it's really interesting how you talk about how our own betrayals end up leading us to worship these celebrities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think particularly now in the modern age that we're living in, where social media has such an important impact on how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive the world, we've been giving our power away to people who don't deserve it and who can't handle it because it's based on a veneer. So that it's this external construct, it's this presentation that if I just look good or if I just say that I have X number of dollars, there isn't really any authenticity. There isn't any ability to really go deep and to judge character. And so we have really been giving our power away to a host of people and leaders and institutions who don't deserve it and aren't capable of handling it.
But why do we do that?
There are a number of reasons. First of all is because human beings are relational creatures. So when we emerge from the womb, we are completely dependent upon the care and nurturing and protection of a person who's larger than life, which is our parents, which is our mother. Uh-huh. And so that's the first celebrity that we come into contact with. Mm-hmm. So then our whole kind of psyche is set up for that, to constantly be looking for something other than ourselves, something outside of ourselves to nurture us and protect us and to give us a sense of place in the world. So that's really what celebrity is, isn't it? So we're looking for Demi Lovato because she is larger than life, and she's a wonderful entertainer, and she makes us feel good. And so it's that pattern that we keep repeating over and over again, which is based upon the very first relationship that we encounter when we come into this planet.
Why do people take the breakups of celebrity couples so personally, and why do they just get so upset when something happens that has nothing to do with their lives?
It's this destruction of the fantasy that they have because, again, sort of one of the things about celebrity is it allows us to escape our lives. So when we're kind of driving to the job that we really don't care for, but we need to keep because we have to pay our mortgage and we want to send our kids to college, the drudgery of our lives, right? And Gwyneth Paltrow marries a rock star. That's sexy and that's seductive and that's exciting, and that takes us out of the drudgery of our lives. And then when Gwyneth Paltrow decides that she wants to divorce, or they both decide that they want to divorce each other and call it, what do they call it? Conscious uncoupling?
Uncoupling,
yes,
yeah.
Conscious uncoupling, yes.
Conscious uncoupling, right. And they were slayed by the public because kind of like, hey, how dare you do this? And then again, how dare you do it with integrity? Because the whole notion of conscious uncoupling is that you do it with integrity and you do it with respect for your partner. And so the notion of how dare you, it's kind of like the person says, how dare you destroy my fantasy of your perfect life, perfect life.
Yeah.
It comes out in a hostile way, which again, it's very difficult for the celebrity. I mean, Gwyneth talked very openly about how she was struggling personally with a host of mood disorders and really wanted to divorce her husband in a way that respected him, respected the marriage, respected their children, and she gets rocks thrown at her. So it's very difficult. It's a very difficult reality to hold when you're a human being struggling to make sense out of your life.
What are the mistaken ideas that the famous, wealthy, and powerful say they had about what their lives would actually be like once they'd attained what they thought they'd wanted?
Peace of mind. People always, I think we all want. I mean, certainly peace of mind is extraordinarily important in my life, and it's no different from the celebrities that I treat. They want peace of mind. They want a sense of place. They want to feel like they're seen and heard. Every human being wants to be seen and heard as an authentic human being. And that's the thing that they thought they would find, and they don't. That they find actually that the money and the success has made their life so complicated. And there's so many layers to them. There's so many people who are dependent upon them. The pressures are just extraordinary, and they don't have peace of mind. So typically, when they come to me, it's trying to find something to ground themselves in, and the therapeutic relationship is really the first place of where they can be vulnerable and trust another human being to pierce through their veneer, the sparkle of their veneer, to the rather unattractive, mundane aspects of being human. And so that's really what they thought that they would get that they did not get.
I'd love for you to elaborate on that a little bit more. When a celebrity comes to you and they feel so unfulfilled, what do you tell them they need to do? What are the steps to feeling fulfillment?
Well, first of all, you need to feel your way to a trusting relationship with another human being. And so my work is based on that. It's establishing a therapeutic relationship that's built on trust. Not that I say you need to trust me. That's the last thing that people want to hear. They just have to feel intuitively that another human being is safe. And so finding that bit and finding that relationship, and then dealing in moments of truth, and then building on those, and then being able to sit with the discomfort that comes from realizing that you may be an imperfect person, and then being able to sit with us. It's like a yoga practice, right? You assume these poses, and they're uncomfortable, and they're difficult, but you learn to tolerate them, and then the more you tolerate them, the better you feel at the end, and the more you become flexible, the more you are able to navigate the world. You become an overall healthier human being. So it's really coming in, finding a place of truth, finding a place of trust, then working on specific aspects of your life to tweak them and to move your life in what I call a reparative direction. Because, if you've attained a level of celebrity and a level of financial success, you've got a lot on the ball, because to get to those places requires an enormous amount of positive attributes. And so teasing out what those positive attributes are, and then applying those attributes to other areas of your life, your interpersonal relationships, finding meaning and purpose, figuring out ways to carve out space where you can be yourself and find peace.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a minute, but first we'd like to tell you about one of our sponsors. When it comes to beauty products, we have so many choices, so why not ask for more from your favorite brands?
We're motivated now more than ever to stick to high-quality, amazing products that are both vegan and cruelty-free. That's why we're so glad we discovered Thrive Cosmetics.
Thrive Cosmetics products are made with high-performance, skin-loving ingredients. All Thrive products are free of parabens, sulfates, and phthalates.
Their clinically proven formulas highlight your best features with long-lasting wear. Laura has beautiful eyes, but even I was stunned by how much they were enhanced by Thrive Cosmetics Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara.
No wonder it's sold every 7 seconds and has over 7,000 five-star reviews online. This innovative tried-and-true mascara gives the look of lash extensions with a smudge-proof, flake-free formula that truly lasts all day.
When I saw how great it looked on Laura, I had to try it myself. I'm older, obviously, and my lashes are thinner, but Thrive Cosmetics Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara made them look fantastic. It's unlike any mascara I've ever used.
And Thrive Cosmetics never tests on animals and has been Leaping Bunny and PETA certified as completely vegan and cruelty-free. For every product purchased, Thrive Cosmetics helps women in need thrive by donating funds or products. Their causes include women emerging from homelessness, surviving domestic abuse, and women fighting cancer.
Start thriving and helping women in need today by going to thrivecosmetics.com/nobodytoldme and use code NobodyToldMe for 15% off your first purchase.
That's Thrive, CAUSEMETICS.com/Nobody Told Me, code Nobody Told Me, for 15% off. ThriveCosmetics.com/Nobody Told Me, code Nobody Told Me.
What are some of the typical triggers that bring a celebrity or a wealthy person to you for treatment?
A lot of the work that I get comes around substance abuse disorders. So a drug and alcohol addiction or a sex addiction or a food addiction. These addictions come in many different flavors these days. So it's a compulsive, destructive behavior that a person is engaging in. Other times it's through a personality disorder, say a narcissistic personality disorder. Now, narcissists are not they don't present to treatment very easily. So typically it's called external motivation. So their wife is going to leave them. Their children aren't talking to them. They're faced with a very unpleasant consequence of their behavior. So they come in to talk about it. But a lot of the work that I also do deals with depression and anxiety, right? I mean, you think, oh my God, if you're, an A-list celebrity, what do you have to be depressed about?
Mm-hmm.
Well, believe me, there's plenty. And depression is biological. I mean, there's a genetic component, there's a physiological component to it. And then, of course, anxiety, just living with this constant pressure of, I made a movie and it made $150 million that weekend. And now the next movie I'm expected to make $200 million in the following. So, there's never any rest. There's never any rest. It's always the next. And that causes an enormous amount of anxiety. So teaching patients cognitive behavioral therapy is very effective in terms of dealing with things. It was created for anxiety disorders. So you look at thought processes that lead to uncomfortable emotional states and then check the realities of those thought processes and help you really help deal with the anxiety. It's quite effective.
Something that you hear about a lot with successful people is that they don't feel like they achieved success in an authentic way, that they feel like they're frauds to some extent. What role does self-esteem play in all of this, and what exercises can we use just as people who are trying to be better, as entrepreneurs who are listening to this show, to try to improve our self-esteem and get ourselves to be our best and feel like we deserve it?
You mentioned a phenomenon that's called the imposter syndrome that I deal with in the book, and recognizing that imposter syndrome exists in all of us. And so it's something that we all suffer from when we have levels of success, any levels of success. We think, oh my God, I don't deserve that. They're going to discover that I'm a fraud. Recognizing that it's a common phenomenon and it's a natural phenomenon works wonders to normalize it and to say, okay, this is something that's very common. I'm not the only one who has these thoughts. You contain those thoughts and then put them in a box so they don't overwhelm you and destroy you and bring you down into a state of depression and profound anxiety. And so just recognizing that, certainly talking to someone who you trust, your best friend, or your therapist or your partner or your mother, about these feelings. And then by talking about them, you dispel them, you take away their energy, the energy that they have over you. Again, it's all about mindfulness techniques. So cognitively, if we know that the thought that we have is inconsistent with the reality, right? Then we can call that out and say, look, I just did X, Y, or Z, and yet I feel this way. I feel diminished. I feel like a failure and a fraud. Objectively, that's inconsistent. That's not consistent with this reality. So continuing to go back and grounding ourselves in reality and diminishing our reactive state. So there's two important parts of the brain. There's the deep limbic system of the brain. That's the primitive reptile brain, and that's purely emotional. That's purely instinctual, reactive. And then there's the front of our brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which enables us to make smart executive decisions typically what happens when we have a reaction that says that we're a fraud or a failure or we don't deserve this success, that's the limbic system, that's old stuff coming up. We can manage that by engaging our prefrontal cortex and say, wait a minute, not so fast. There's a new reality here, and the reality is that I work really hard to get where I am, and my success is valid, and I'm worthy of it.
Many celebrities have become that way because they're extremely good looking. What unique problems do they face?
It's this objectification that occurs. Again, I wrote another chapter in the book about beauty as a celebrity, as a feature of celebrity. And in my book, I define celebrity as a feature of a human being that causes them to be viewed as an object. So celebrity can manifest itself in several different ways. It can be one's surname, one's last name. It could be their wealth. It could be the Oscars that they won. And very often it's a person's beauty. So a person walks into the room and they're physically beautiful. We have a limbic system reaction. We have an emotional reaction to that. It takes our breath away, right? Because again, we are animals. We are, at our deep core, we are primitive animals, and we still have a animal reaction. And so that is a feature of human beings that is not really talked about as a feature of celebrity. And, I think we need to do a better job of recognizing for what it is. And then once we recognize it, once we feel ourselves being hooked by it, then to again step back, take a breath, and then say, oh, my God, I just had a profound emotional reaction to it. Let me go deeper and try to see the humanness in this person.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a moment, but first we'd like to share some information about our sponsor, Pray.com. A lot of our listeners in our Nobody Told Me family are looking for ways to ease stress and anxiety. Research shows daily prayer can help you do just that.
It's no surprise that 48% of Americans say they pray every day. Did you know that daily prayer improves your cognitive function, lowers blood pressure, and helps with better decision making?
When we have a strong daily and nightly prayer routine, we're more grateful throughout the day and are more relaxed and sleep better throughout the night. Pray.com is the #1 app for prayer and sleep.
With Pray.com, you'll discover a new daily and nightly prayer routine, as well as inspirational Bible stories designed to strengthen your faith and lift your spirits.
Pray.com gives you motivational daily prayer plans, private and inclusive prayer communities, and relaxing bedtime Bible stories that will help you fall asleep.
Hear the Bible come to life through stories like Adam and Eve, Noah and the Ark, and the 10 Commandments as a part of your daily prayer routine on Pray.com.
Use Pray.com to build a healthy habit of prayer, gain wisdom from the Bible, and fall asleep to bedtime Bible stories.
Right now, Nobody Told Me listeners get 60% off a Pray.com premium subscription by downloading the Pray.com app at pray.com/Nobody Told Me.
That's PRAY.com/Nobody Told Me.
Over 50 million prayers have been created on Pray.com. Find out why at pray.com/Nobody Told Me.
With the holidays upon us, I feel like the never enough mentality is really rampant, and people are trying to live beyond their means and show their friends and family that maybe they have more money than they actually do. And this could mean buying more expensive gifts that they can really afford, or going on vacations maybe they can't afford. What suggestions do you have if somebody is struggling with this, with not wanting to show their true financial situation to their friends and family around the holidays?
So I think that it's a critically important point. I mean, I think that we have been told, certainly by every commercial interest, almost by the political system, right, that the consumers need to spend ourselves into a strong economy. And so consumers have really been bearing the brunt of a lot of this messaging, which puts them in a very precarious situation. So I think, again, recognizing where you're giving your power. It's like we talked about in the beginning. So you're giving your power over to people, places, and things who don't deserve it and who will betray you. So it's reclaiming your power and not giving it away, and recognizing that your power comes from a strong sense of self, a place of security, a place of groundedness, and you're not ever going to feel completely grounded if you have enormous credit card debt, or you're constantly struggling to pay off your credit card debt. You're going to get a sense of place and groundedness in the world when you become more of a master of your destiny, which means that you have control over your finances. So spending in a way to impress other people is a sign of emotions. It's a sign of that focusing on your own emotional development, on your own sense of self, and developing your own sense of self and developing your unique place in the world is where the true dividends are going to be paid, and where the real value comes from.
Who do you admire in terms of their ability to handle wealth or fame or power? Who do you think has it in perspective?
I happen to be a huge fan of Demi Lovato. She is so honest about her struggles. I think for young women, she really is a terrific role model. She's honest about her recovery. She's honest about when she has a slip, she gets back on the train and starts riding it again. I have a huge amount of respect for her. In terms of successful entrepreneurs, I happen to be a huge fan of Mayor Bloomberg. I think that he has extraordinary wealth, but he's used his extraordinary wealth in extraordinary ways to protect the environment, to store a new generation of leaders. This sense of giving back to the world is critically important. You get to a point where some people do, and that to me is a sign that they are emotionally healthy, is when they realize, okay, it's enough already, and so I don't need to be narcissistically acquiring trophies. What I need to be doing is building a next generation and stewarding the world in a way that it's going to be a healthier, safer place for the generations to follow.
And Dr. Hokemeyer, our show is called Nobody Told Me. And so at the end of each program, we ask our guests, what is your Nobody Told Me lesson? And you've been fortunate enough, and everybody else has been fortunate enough to have been treated by you and to learn from you and your wisdom in treating people who seem to have it all and people who don't. What is it that nobody told you about why seemingly fulfilled people are unfulfilled that you wish that they had told you before?
I think they may have told me before. I just never listened to it. I didn't listen to it until later in life. And that is follow your heart. Always operate through integrity and stay true to yourself. It's so easy to get seduced and pulled off and put into the sparkle. But you trust your instincts and follow your true north and keep it grounded in authenticity and integrity.
And what's the message you'd like to get across to those who aren't famous, wealthy, or powerful and are very envious of those who are?
Be careful of what you pray for. Be careful of what you ask for, because all that sparkles is not gold.
And how can people connect with you on social media and the internet and learn more about the new book?
Well, you can find the book on Amazon, Fragile Power. You can also get it on Barnes & Noble, in your local Barnes & Noble. And you can find me at Paul Hokemeyer on Facebook. And I have a Facebook page, Paul Hokemeyer, JD, PhD, and then I have a personal Facebook page. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I have a website, it's Dr. Hokemeyer, www.dr.Hokemeyer, H-O-K as in kettle, E-M as in Mary, E-Y-E-R.com.
Super. Well, our thanks to Dr. Paul Hokemeyer, whose book is called Fragile Power, Why Having Everything is Never Enough. Lessons from Treating the Wealthy and Famous. And again, his website is drhokemeyer.com. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
You're listening to Nobody Told Me. Thank you so much for joining us.